What's up, all you beautiful people? Welcome to another video. Today, I want to share with you 15 money lessons I wish I knew sooner. I have gone from zero, made millions, I've lost millions, and so I have a pretty good perspective to share with you on the things that you need to have in mind if you want to go from not maybe growing up in a family that talked a lot about money, didn't discuss the topic of how to win the money game, the rules of it, or the strategies of it, and how you can apply that to your life. So here are 15 lessons that have, in hindsight, served me really incredibly well. And some of these I didn't learn well enough. And so hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. So lesson number one is simply that money beliefs limit you more than reality. Let me say that again. Your beliefs about money limit you more than reality. And this is a really hard one for a lot of us to fully grasp and accept. I know it was for me, at least, because I grew up thinking money was limited. I was thinking of it as this scarce resource that was hard to get, because I equated making money with exchanging my time, and that the only skills that I had that made my time worthwhile to somebody else was because of the physical work that I could do with my time, right? So when I was young, I didn't have the ability to code. I didn't have the ability to speak coherently on a camera or communicate an idea or to do anything with my brain. And so all I had were my hands. I worked landscaping for a summer. It was the most freaking brutal job of my life. And I made like barely more than minimum wage. And so that was how I thought about making money. You exchange your time for it. And if all you have is your body, then it's going to be hard going. And so that really influenced me for a number of years and held me back when it came to making more money. As soon as I started to realize, though, that money isn't limited. It's not hard to get. It's not scarce. It's all about how you frame how you get the money. Now, there's one other money belief in particular that I think most people really struggle with that holds them back. And I know it is the case for a lot of people in my family, actually, which is that money is bad. A lot of people believe subconsciously that money is evil, that it's the root of all evil. And I know, Bible thumpers, I know the love of money is the root of all evil. I know that. If you guys don't know, by the way, in a past life, I was a youth pastor. Yeah, I worked in a church for a year and at a Bible camp. One of my degrees is in religion, so yeah, don't talk about that very frequently. I know it's the love of money is the root of all evil, but a lot of people associate money with evil. They think about billionaires as being evil people. And so what happens is that you subconsciously associate the desire for money with this negative, dirty feeling like, oh, I shouldn't want that thing. I feel bad about lusting after this thing. And that is going to influence how you actually approach the act of making money. So the very first thing that you have to do if you want to win the money game is you need to change the money beliefs that you have, how you think about money. It's not scarce, it's actually abundant, right? It's everywhere around you. It's not hard to get. It's just a matter of knowing how to get it. It's not bad. It's not evil. It's actually a really good resource. It's a tool like anything else. It comes down to your ability to wield that tool. And so your job, if you think that the world could be made better through better application and deployment of money, you would be best spent going to learn how to win money so that you can get it, and then you can deploy it towards the things that would make the world a better place. So change your money beliefs, and that's going to change the downstream consequences, make money a lot easier to make. Lesson number 2, money solves all your money problems. Okay, this is funny because, I usually say this, that money doesn't solve all your problems, but it does solve all your money problems. The reason that this is lesson number 2, that money solves all your money problems, is because a lot of people, because their money beliefs dictate that money is bad, that it's evil, that's hard to get, that it's limited, right? They have these limiting money beliefs. They therefore convince themselves that money doesn't matter, right? Oh, money doesn't matter. We should all live in this communist socialist utopia where everybody's treated equal and everybody has equal access to resources. And the thing is that you cannot win the money game if you do not address the fact that money is important. And you need it. You need it to solve your basic problems of life, like your shelter, your food, all those things. Now, I'm not saying that money's going to make you happy. That's not what I'm talking about here. But money can make you secure. Money can make you free, can buy back your time so that you can go pursue the things that would give you happiness. But pretending like money doesn't matter is exactly what I did through my 20s. And it's the reason why by the end of my 20s, I was $80,000 in debt living in a van. It's a losing strategy to put your head in the sand, put your fingers in your ears and go blah, 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 blah. Money doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. Money does matter. So stop pretending like it doesn't. Number 3. The third lesson is that copying the losing team's playbook is a really stupid strategy, right? Like, you don't go and say, I would like to emulate the playbook of the team that got last place last year in the NFL. That doesn't make any sense. You should probably go study the playbook of the team that won. So what that means is right now, you are probably looking at the playbook of the losing team. And you don't even realize it because the only people that you have access to in your life, your family, your friends, your teachers, they're probably poor, right? Like if you're watching a video like this to learn how to make money or money lessons, right? Chances are you're doing it because people in your life aren't talking about it because you don't have exposure to this. I know I certainly didn't. And so for like the first 28 years of my life, I was stealing the playbook. I was stealing I was copying the test answers of the person sitting next to me who was also poor. I was taking money advice from poor people. And so is it any surprise then that I was also poor? No, if you want to win the money game, study the winning playbooks. Read the books of the wealthiest investors and brilliant business people, people who have won the money game. Study what they do, what they did, and then go do that. But do not take money advice from people who are losing the game. It just doesn't make any sense. Number 4. Learn the difference between assets and liabilities. It's very simple, and I've kind of crapped on the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad in the past. The main reason I crap on it is because it's just a very simple premise that doesn't need to have a whole book to explain the concept. And also Robert Kiyosaki he's become a deranged old man. Let's just say that. But the difference between an asset and a liability is an asset is something that puts money back into your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So if I buy let's say I buy this iPad right here. I bought this iPad as a pure entertainment device. All I do on it is I watch Netflix every single night. Well, that is a liability because I paid money for this and it's not doing anything for me other than giving me joy and pleasure. If I use this same tool to run my business, to create content, to do things that ultimately make me money, then this is an asset. Now, could I take this device and could I sell it? Yes. So technically it could go from being a pure device of entertainment from a liability to something that is making me money. Now it's an asset in that instance. The reason this is important is because now when you start seeing the world in this black and white dichotomy of, is it an asset? Is it adding money? Is it making me more than it cost me? Or is it costing me money? Now you start to realize a lot of the things that you spend money on in your life are simply sucking money out of you. And the wealthiest people, the people that win the money game, are the best at collecting assets. They're the best at buying things that make them more money. And if you start playing the game of life in that way, you'll start to realize like, oh, do I need that toy? No, but if I could use that toy in this video, let's say, to help me make money for my business or whatever, then that's an asset. So it's just a different way. Now, the tax man is going to delineate assets and liabilities different than what I'm talking about here. Like one of the classic examples people talk about is your primary residence. Is your primary residence an asset or a liability? Doesn't matter from a technical perspective. What I want to encourage you to think about is it from a theoretical perspective. If you live in the house and it's not actively making you money because you're not renting it out and you have money going out each month for the mortgage, it is a liability. Now, if you sell it down the road someday and you make money off of it, it turns into an asset. So like this is where it's actually a kind of a gray area, but this is a mindset. This is a way of seeing things and a process for evaluating, do I need that thing in my life or would my money be better served going somewhere else, being deployed towards something else? Which brings us to lesson number 5, which is simply that money is a tool. It's a tool and your ability to use it depends on your skills more than anything else. And so first thing is that having emotional baggage associated with the tool is not very useful. Like if I think the hammer is a bad hammer, going back to the limiting beliefs about money, right? If I think that hammer is bad, I'm not going to use the hammer, right? But the hammer can be used for all sorts of good things. But a lot of people, they have so much emotional baggage that they can't even approach the tool in an objective, utilitarian way. And so what I want to encourage you to think about here is a hammer can be used to build or it can be used to destroy. And it depends on you as the wielder of the hammer, which one you're going to do. And I'm bringing this up so that more and more what I find the reason people don't make money is the emotional baggage and the limiting beliefs associated. So a lot of these lessons are going to come back to that underlying principle. Money is a tool, nothing more. It doesn't have it. It's not good or bad. It's what you do with it that makes it so. So lesson number 6, with money as a tool, there's really only one thing you can do with money. This is interesting. And again, this is like it's a theoretical concept to help you understand what you actually do with money. See, a lot of people, they think that you can save money, that you could invest money, that you can spend money, right? They'll list off all of these things. But the truth is that you can only spend money. That's the only thing that you can do. Now, what you spend your money on dictates whether you are saving it or you are investing it or you are just spending it. So like spending it in like an expense perspective. So what I mean by this, if you want to save money, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just take my money and I'll put it into a bank account. Okay, well, if you just put your money in a checking account, then you are slowly losing purchasing power each year to this little thing called inflation, right? The dollar value loses its purchase power over time. So by putting your money in a checking account, what you are buying is security and accessibility. We call this liquidity. So easy access to your money, and it comes at the cost of inflation, which is about 2-3% every year, let's say, right? But it's not saved. You are losing money and you are getting something. You're getting a benefit. Now, let's say you put that money into a bond that matches the rate of inflation, right? And it perfectly mirrors it. Well, what are you buying now? Well, you're buying security and you're buying that purchasing power, but it comes at the expense of liquidity. You can't just liquidate that quite as easily. It's a little bit harder to get to. It might take a couple days for you to liquidate it and actually recoup it. And so this is a really helpful mindset. Are you spending your money and just having it sitting in a bank account? Are you spending the money to go buy toys? Or are you spending the money to actually go and earn you money? And that's what we call investing, right? If I spend the money to go buy a stock in a Fortune 500 company, the idea is that my money is now out there working as hard for me as I worked for it, and it's going to bring back more of its friends for me. But I spent that with the idea that it's going to bring back money for me. And so always be asking yourself in all situations, what am I spending my money on right now? Am I spending it on something that's going to make me more money? That's going to give me security, that gives me liquidity? Like, what is it that my money is doing for me? Even if it's sitting in a hole in the ground in the backyard, what did you spend that money on? Oh, you bought peace of mind. You bought security, knowing that if the banking system collapses, the world goes to hell, you still got some cash in the backyard. What's it costing you? It's costing you inflation, you crazy bugger. Not saying you shouldn't be prepared for the worst case scenario, but like, come on now. Number 7, don't want to hate on any of you doomers and preppers out there. You guys are probably right in the grand scheme of things, and I will come knock on your door and ask for help in the future if the world kind of falls apart. Number 7, you cannot, knowing now that you can only do one thing with your money, spend it, right? You cannot save your way to wealth. You cannot save your way to abundance. You have to find ways to make your money work harder for you than you worked for it. You cannot save your way. So this lesson was reinforced for me back in 2017. My business partner, his family is like multi-billionaires, incredibly wealthy, one of the wealthiest families in the country. And this was my first foray building a particular type of business. And we were trying to focus a lot on expense cutting. We thought, hey, a dollar saved is better than a dollar earned, because a dollar saved is always going straight to the bottom line, whereas a dollar earned, it's always on a margin. So like, we should try to cut expenses. And you've heard this before. You should save on Starbucks and like save your money and right, all that stuff. But what he said is that you can't save your way to wealth. You can't save your way to profitability. And what he's saying is that, like, in the grand scheme of things, you have infinite potential upside on earning, but you only have a capped upside on saving. You can only save so much money before you're living as frugally as you possibly could. So if you're making $50,000 a year, the most you can save every year is $50,000. If you lived off of nothing else, that's all you could save, right? That's your cap. So you're better off, if you want to build wealth, is to go and ask yourself, how do I increase my earning capacity? Because that's potentially unlimited, right? Like Elon Musk just signed a compensation package with Tesla that could potentially make him $1 trillion. So like currently that's the potential upside, like the cap of what you could earn, right? So instead of trying to save $50,000 and live frugally below your means and all this, that, the other thing, you're better served trying to figure out, how do I go from making $50,000 to $500,000 to $5 million? You have way more potential there than just trying to pinch and scrape every single penny. Lesson number 8, time is an investor's best friend. So going back to the idea that you can really only do one thing with your money, right? You spend it. So if you spend it on something that is going to make you money in the long term, then we call that an investment, right? You can invest into a business, into a stock or whatever, right? Or into crypto if you expect that in the future it's making you more money. The thing when it comes to investing though is, on a long enough time frame, most investments, the ones that don't go to zero, they will make money. Most investments will continue to grow if you give them enough time. And so your goal is to give yourself as long of a time frame as possible when it comes to your investments. If you invest in the stock market and you're planning on selling in 6 months, well, who knows? You might make money, you might lose money. But if you held that stock for the next 20 years, there's a really high probability that that thing is definitely going to make you money, right? So time is an investor's best friend. Go into every investment that you get into with the expectation that I'm going to be in this for 5, 10, 15 years. It's going to be very hard to lose money in that situation. Number 9, money is an exchange of value, right? So when I buy this phone, it's because I ascribe more value to this phone than I do to the dollars which I exchanged for it. Now, what this means, practically speaking, is that if you want to make more money in life, you have to figure out, well, how do I deliver more value? And that's not the worst way. Again, going back to the limiting belief that, our time is money, and that the only way to make money is to exchange your time for it. That's a terrible way to make money. Like time, you're so limited, and there's going to become a limit to how much time you can deploy towards making money. So you want to think about, how can I apply leverage to this act of making money? Because if you want to make, let's say, $5 million a year, you're not probably going to do that from going from working 40 hours to 60 hours or 80 hours. Like there's just a natural cap on that. So you could either figure out, how do I deliver a lot of value to very few people, or how do I deliver a little value to a lot of people? Now, what most people are doing is they work a W-2 job, which means that they deliver a bit of value to one person, which is the company. They deliver that to their W-2 employee. You want to figure out, can I deploy and deliver a lot of value to maybe a handful of people, which maybe you run an agency, maybe you run a business that is like high ticket luxury item, and you only sell 100 of this thing, and you sell each one for $100,000. That's one way to make a ton of money. Or maybe you go downstream and you say, how can I deliver a ton of value to very few people? Or a little bit of value to a ton of people. That could be, you sell like a mass-produced widget, like these sunglasses. These sunglasses right here, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have bought these sunglasses for $200 each, and that will also make you a lot of money. But figure out, start thinking in that paradigm when it comes to making money. Do I deliver a lot of value to a few people, or a little value to a lot of people? Now, if you could deliver a lot of value to a lot of people, you're going to get that's how you become a billionaire. But this is a way of thinking about money that was very foreign to me when I was younger. So, lesson number 10, Cogs do not get rich. Cogs do not get rich. So what that means is, most people that are working in a W-2, they are just a cog in a machine, and they're interchangeable, right? If you're the HR director for that Fortune 500 company, you get fired, they're going to bring in somebody tomorrow and they're going to plug them in. It's a cog that just goes into the machine and just keep churning. If you are a replaceable part of a machine, then you will probably never get rich. I'm sorry, you will never win the money game. And it's because it's just a supply-demand disequilibrium. If I can replace you with another cog, then why would I pay you more, right? There's a number of people behind you that would do the same work for the same amount of money. I'm just going to plug them into the system. So what you need to figure out is, how can I get outside the machine? How can I be the one that builds the machine? And how can I be the one that's turning the crank? Right? Because the crank needs to be turned by somebody. Somebody needs to build the machine. That's the person that gets rich, not the cogs within the machine. Now, there are exceptions. The exceptions being if you go become a vital cog in a very valuable company at a very pivotal moment in its life cycle. So if you were, employee number 10 at Facebook, then yeah, you're going to get rich because you are a very valuable cog within that machine. But the thing is, that wasn't a very good machine at that point. That was a very dubious machine. It was like that machine's more likely to blow up and kill all the cogs. So if you want to be a cog that gets rich inside of a machine, you're going to have to take a disproportionate amount of risk. And for most people that are a W-2 employee, that's not what they want. They don't want risk. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. My encouragement to you is to think about, how do I get outside the machine in a safe way that maximizes my probability of delivering and making value? And that's usually being the one that's actually running the show, building the machine, building the teams, deploying other people's efforts. They're just cogs in your machine to go make money, right? So that's number 10. Cogs don't get rich. Lesson number 11. The fastest way to get rich is by increasing your earning potential, which we actually already talked about. I guess I got off track here. Because there is no cap to how much you can make. And I think, actually, this is a really important lesson because I think a lot of people, they will have a normalized number in their mind for what's reasonable for their life. If your dad only ever made $70,000 ever at the most in his life, then you might have this subconscious limiting belief that $70,000 is your cap. And in fact, actually, one of my students, I was talking to him a couple months ago. He had been stuck at like $50,000 a month for a really long time. And what got him ultimately to growing again was reframing the belief that he had that 50,000 was the limit of what he could do or what he was worth. He had just started to associate 50,000 per month was the most he could do. And he hadn't actually sat down and expressed that to himself. He hadn't thought that. But when you looked at his behaviors, when you looked at how he charged people, how he pitched people, it was very clear that he had this limiting belief that 50,000, despite the fact that his goal was, I want to make 100,000, he's in his mind, he didn't believe he was worth 100,000. And the thing that ultimately got him to 100 wasn't that he went and became more valuable. It was just simply that he reframed in his own mind that he was in fact worth that amount. And then he pitched with confidence and conviction. And sure enough, he got to where he was trying to go. It's really crazy, again, that our beliefs limit us so much in this money game. Lesson number 12, what do we got here? Okay, so when we talked about if you want to make more money, solve bigger problems, there's 3 problems in particular that people are willing to pay a lot for. Help them make more money, help them get healthy, or help them build status. Those are really the 3 things that people really, really value. They want to make more money. So if you can figure out how you could take your skills to help a business or an individual make more money. So like what I'm doing right here, I'm sharing with you money lessons that you can then go and apply to your life to make more money. That's highly valuable. And you'd probably be willing to pay for that. Why? Because if what I'm teaching you works and it makes you money, then it made you more than it cost you. Then what do we spend our money on? We spent it on an asset. Better than a liability, right? So money, helping people make more money or businesses make more money, very good way of adding more value. 2 is helping people live longer or healthier, right? Like people want to look better. They want to feel better because at the end of the day, what's the point of going through life feeling like shit? Right? So people generally are willing to spend a lot of money on their health. Now, are they willing to actually do the day-to-day work required to maintain and improve their health? No, people like to spend money on the gym membership. They don't like to use the gym membership so much. So that's another thing that you can figure out is how do you actually get people to follow through and be accountable? The third thing is status. So pretty much every luxury brand out there, not even luxury brands, but so many brand name things are just associated with giving people a perception of improved status. So if you can help people feel better about themselves through the things that you're selling, you're going to be able to make a lot of money. All right. Number 3, what are we on? 13. We talked about leverage earlier, but what do I mean specifically when it comes to making money? What is leverage? There's 4 types. Naval talks about this far more eloquently than I ever could, but I've done videos on this, breaking it down and giving examples from my own entrepreneurial career of how I've used each one of these. So I recommend you go watch those videos. But in a nutshell, you have labor. Labor comes in 2 forms. That's either your labor or somebody else's labor. If I'm using my labor, that's me exchanging my time for money. And that, as we already discussed, not a great way to make money. Now, if I can recruit other people to come and work for me, now I can benefit from their labor. that does scale. That is a great way to make money. And it is traditionally how a lot of people think about building businesses. They're like, oh, I need to build a big team, 100,000 people, right? That's a lot of people, maybe 100, a team of 100, right? Think that's a great business. That's true. But in today's digital age, I would actually posit that you're better off trying to build a big business with fewer people, because labor is a great way to build a business. Don't get me wrong, but people are hard. People are messy. And it's the most, I'd say like headache inducing way to build wealth is through labor. But in the beginning, it's the one that you probably have the most readily available access to: your labor, other people's labor. Second form of leverage is capital. So this is what you do when you deploy money to go and buy you assets. So if I invest in the S&P 500, that money comes back to me in the form of dividends. If I go and angel invest in this company, those are ways of deploying capital. The problem with it, as you might imagine, is that it takes money to make money. With this form of leverage, if you don't already have money, then you got to figure out how to get OPM. That's other people's money. How do I get other people to give me the money to go and invest? And that is what fund managers and hedge fund managers are doing. They're getting other people to give them billions of dollars to go and invest on their behalf, and then they take a slice of that. Fantastic way to make money if you have the skill and you have the ability to get people to give you money. Easier said than done. Third form of leverage is code. It's code, and let's expand this out now to AI, right? You have the ability to create a software right now with vibe coding, with AI, that you could then go deploy and serve millions of people in the span of just like a couple of days. It's absolutely wild. But code is the most, I'd say over the last 15 years, it has been the predominant way that people have been building wealth. The most wealthy individuals, if you look at the Forbes like 500 list, are tech entrepreneurs at this point. The fourth type of leverage is media. And I would say that media is fast becoming a replacement to code. I don't think that it has quite as much upside as code does for building like big wealth, but it's so accessible to everybody. And media, a good example of that is what I'm doing right here, right? I'm making a video, I'm sharing it on YouTube, where it costs me nothing to put it out there except for the cost of production, the cost of like distribution is free. I'm putting it out there. Millions of people potentially are seeing this video, and then that drives awareness towards a business that I might have. People go buy a product. Maybe it just generates ad revenue through people viewing this video on the platform of YouTube. So there's so many ways now that we can become media influencers. And honestly, I think media is the best way for any business that's doing between $1 million and $10 million a year to add like easy growth. Adding a media machine, taking advantage of the free distribution and awareness available on YouTube, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Knowing how to do that is a great way to add more zeros to your business's top line. If you guys want to learn how to do that, by the way, that's something that we do train on, that we coach on. Just go to Beyond the Apex. There's a link down in the description. Go see if it's a good fit for you, but no hard pitch here. Number 14, lifestyle creep is probably the biggest enemy of wealth generation. So as you make more money, your expenses also grow in proportion. If as you make more money, you go buy the fancy car, if you go buy the fancy house, if you start flying first class, if you start going on more vacations, then yeah, you made $1 million, but you also are spending $900,000 a year. And how is that really any different than when you were making $150,000 a year and only spending $50,000? So be aware that yes, you have unlimited upside earning potential, but you also have unlimited upside spending potential, and you will find ways to spend your money as fast as you earn it if you are not disciplined and aware that that is the great eroder of wealth. Last lesson is that generational wealth is the ultimate goal. Now, what do I mean by generational wealth? A lot of people, when they say generational wealth, what they're talking about is the type of wealth that you can pass on to future generations, right? I want to become so rich, I want to have a dynasty, and I want to be able to pass on $1 million to each one of my heirs, right? That's a form of generational wealth. That's not the type that I'm talking about. Generational wealth, to me, is wealth that compounds upon itself and continues growing without your input or your activities. So it leverages the Matthew principle, which is, to those who have, more shall be given. To those who have not, more shall be taken, right? It's simply those who are winning continue winning. And generational wealth is, how can I build machines or systems within my businesses or within my investment strategies that the money is making more money for me? And if you think about all of your efforts through that lens. How can I deploy my money so that each dollar is like a worker whose job is to go out and bring back more workers? So that worker goes out and he brings back another one. That's compounding interest. Now I have 2 workers and they both go out and bring back a worker. Now I have 4 workers. That is the type of wealth that you're trying to build. Generational wealth, the wealth that continues to generate upon itself. Now, those are 15 money lessons. This was a big one, but in here, there's probably at least one lesson that if you were to internalize and to actually deploy into your life would make all the difference. So let me know. And it probably sparked something and you probably resonated. Let me know down in the comments which one in particular or which number of ones were the ones that hit you. What'd you hear? What'd you like? What'd you need to hear the most? Put it down in the comments, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.